Elias Harper had always been known as the poorest rancher in Dead Horse Valley, a man whose land was so dry that even the cactus seemed to lean toward the river that ran miles away. His cabin was a crooked thing of sun-bleached boards, his herd barely a dozen half-starved cattle, and his only real wealth was a mule named Dusty, who was too stubborn to quit working and too old to run away. Yet for all he lacked, Elias carried a heart large enough to shame men with 10 times his fortune. He believed in kindness, like others believed in gold, and it was that belief that would change his life in a way no rancher in the West had ever seen. One early evening, as the sun dropped low and painted the desert in copper light, Elias heard a faint thud near his fence line. At first he thought it was one of his cows collapsing again, but then he saw a shadow, tall, unsteady, and swaying like a branch in the wind. When he approached, Elias found a wounded Apache warrior collapsed near the mesquite tree, his arm torn open by a rifle shot, his breathing ragged. Elias froze. The history between settlers and the Apache people was drenched in suspicion, fear, and old blood. Many ranchers would have walked away. Others might have finished the man off just to feel safe. But Elias wasn't like them. "Easy now," he murmured, kneeling beside the warrior. The man's eyes flicked open, fierce and proud, even in pain. Elias raised both hands to show he meant no harm. "I ain't your enemy," he whispered, and slowly carried the man toward his home. Inside the cabin, he cleaned the wound, tore strips from his only decent shirt, and bandaged him carefully. The Apache said nothing until dawn's first light crept in through the window. "Why help me?" he finally asked in a low voice. Elias shrugged. A man's life matters, no matter the color of his skin or the name of his people. The warrior watched, him with an unreadable expression. Before leaving, he lifted a hand to his chest, a gesture of respect. Then he disappeared into the desert without another word. Elias returned to his chores, believing that was the end of it. But rumors began to swirl in town within days. Whispers of Apache scouts seen on the ridges, silhouettes watching from the canyon cliffs, and ranchers growing nervous. Elias tried not to think about it. He didn't know that his small act of kindness had already been carried across the desert wind. That the story of the poor rancher who saved an Apache warrior had reached ears he never imagined. He didn't know that the dawn was coming, when the horizon would be filled with something Dead Horse Valley had never witnessed, something that would shake every rancher to their bones and forever rewrite how Elias Harper's name would be remembered. Elias woke before sunrise 3 weeks later, not because of any sound, but because of a strange stillness outside, too quiet even for the desert. Dusty the mule stood stiff, ears angled toward the east. Elias stepped onto his porch, rubbing sleep from his eyes, and froze as the first line of the horizon turned red with motion. At first he thought it was a mirage, heat shimmering off the desert floor. But then the shapes grew clearer, row after row of riders, materializing like spirits from the morning haze. 100? 200? No more. The ground vibrated beneath Elias's boots as nearly 1,000 Apache warriors rode toward his tiny ranch in absolute silence. Their horses moved like shadows, their spears glinting in the rising sun, their faces painted with the solemnity of a sacred purpose. Elias's heart hammered. Not fear, just awe. No rancher had ever seen such a gathering without it meaning war. He lifted his hands slowly, showing he was unarmed. The riders parted down the center like a river opening, and through them came the warrior Elias had saved. The same man, now riding tall, his braids decorated with silver and eagle feathers, his expression one of deep honor. He dismounted and approached. "Elias Harper," he said, speaking his name with clarity. "I am Nantan, son of Chief DeSoto High. When you saved my life, you saved the future of our people. My father sent us here to honor the man whose heart is stronger than fear." Elias felt his throat tighten. He had never expected repayment, especially not this. Nantan lifted a hand, and the 1,000 warriors bowed their heads as one, the sight overwhelming in its power and unity. "You showed kindness when no one else would," Nantan said. "So we give you what only the Apache Nation can offer, protection from all enemies, the blessing of our ancestors, and the promise that no harm will ever come to your land." Elias stood speechless, as Nantan extended a beautifully woven blanket, symbolic of alliance. Then several riders unloaded packs of dried meat, corn, and herbs, enough provisions to sustain Elias for months. One rider even brought a strong young horse, reins offered respectfully. The display was so grand, so unimaginable, that ranchers from miles away gathered on surrounding ridges, staring in disbelief. They had always mocked Elias, calling him the pauper rancher, the man with nothing. But here he was, honored by 1,000 warriors, trusted more than any wealthy cattle baron in the valley. Elias stepped forward, voice soft but steady. "I didn't help for reward," he said. "I just did what felt right." Nantan placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is why you are worthy of reward." Then the warriors raised their spears in salute, the morning sun catching the metal tips until they shone like a field of stars. Elias felt something shift inside him, and understanding that kindness was not weakness, and that sometimes the smallest good deed could echo across nations. After one final bow, the 1,000 riders turned and faded back into the desert, disappearing as silently as they had arrived, leaving Elias standing on his porch with the wind brushing against his face, carrying the weight of an unforgettable miracle. And from that day forward, no one in Dead Horse Valley ever saw Elias as the poor rancher again. They saw him as the man who welcomed peace with nothing but compassion, and his name lived on in both settler and Apache stories for generations. A reminder that one act of kindness can change the world in ways no one could ever imagine. If you enjoyed this powerful Wild West tale and want more stories that touch the heart and stir the imagination, make sure to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.